and welcome to the Life Strategy Show. Your show host, Maxine Phillips. Listen, today, I always say we have a treat and we have another phenomenal guest that's going to be with us. But before we talk about the guest, it's all about levelless and a success without levels. So thank you for joining us this evening. Success without levels. I want you to take that and I want you to embody it. Because many times we're waiting on someone to accept us or tell us that we're going to be promoted or ready for promotion or considered a high performance. You are already high performance. Know that within yourself. And that is one of the reasons why levelless pushes and at the root level, success without levels. So don't wait on corporate America to tell you successful. Don't wait on your family or your friends or your coworkers. Know it within yourself and believe yourself. And one of the things that we do is we work with youth in high school, those in college, as well as adults. And even with the adults, we're looking at leadership because many times we're not being promoted because we're not able to show our value or the values that we bring to the organization that has made a difference. So as we get started tonight, we're in the holiday season, and I know we just lost two individuals, Councilman West, James West, and we also lost a former president, oh my gracious, I just lost her name, Carter, Jimmy Carter's wife. And we want to take a pause right now to just honor them and thank them for the service and all of the things that they've done here in the United States and the people that they've touched. So let's just take a moment of silence. Thank you for allowing for me to take that moment of silence. We're in a season of Thanksgiving, but it shouldn't just be November. It should be all year long. And at Levelless, we talk about levelless living and living your legacy. So we have with us this evening, Shanese Green, who's going to be sharing with us how she's living her legacy and the strategies that she has put in place that's going to take us and help us to move forward in life. So help me to welcome Shanese. And tonight I'm going to be calling her affectionately Niecy. That's a little cute name, an AKA name for her. So I'm going to bring up Niecy. Come on down. There she is, there she is, there she is. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give her a round of applause. Yes.
Oh, Maxine, thank you so much for having me.
You are so welcome, and thank you for being here. I tell you, Miss Lady, we met, and when we met, we already knew it was ordained. Our spirits just connected immediately. And we are so in the same space when it comes to helping individuals to understand how are they to move forward in life. We both talked about how COVID just stumped us and put us in a frame of mind that we felt stuck. But you know what? This show, Levelless, is all about life strategy so that we can become unstuck. And that's why we have phenomenal individuals like yourself coming on and sharing the strategies that you have put in place for yourself. So why don't you give us just a tidbit of that background on you? Because I know, let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, it goes on and on and on. But Niecy is going to give us a short version starting out, and then we're going to dive deep into a phenomenal chat for this evening.
Thank you. I also must take a moment to thank you to honor my friend, Dr. West, and his wife, Sylvia. I think I want to kind of start there. I loved anybody who was a part of the civil rights movement. And so I felt like early on in my life, very early, like as a child, I should be advocating for others. And so I've lived a life of service. I enjoy it a lot. And when I met Dr. West, he told me, he said, Niecy, you have to know the history. And I said, yes, sir. And he said, see, it started with Southeast Raleigh Assembly. And I said, yes, sir. Dr. Rita Nita Alinger, I used to do mortgage workshops probably about 10 years ago because I had my children in a little video. So long before there were reels and things of this nature, I was always trying to innovate ways to help people. Professionally, I was a banker for 20 years and I was what would be considered a high profile banker, but I didn't know it. I was just being friendly to people. And if a bank got on my nerves, I just go play with another bank. If I don't like something, I don't do it. And what is wonderful is I couldn't control the pandemic. I had no control. And it was okay now that I know it was my opportunity to go grow closer to a higher power because I could not be held, but he had to hold me. And so coming out of the pandemic, I was all over the news talking about in the great resignation. And I was proud. However, I was also able to truly see how my work spoke for me. When I left banking, people would still call me and they would offer me opportunities to consult. I became an advisor and I started working on citizen awareness and doing things that I love to do while serving a greater good. And then I found out you were a Rotarian. And I was like, yes, the four-way test, that's pretty much like my lifestyle. And so in a nutshell, that's who I am. I'm simply a person. I've been considered a light. I like to look at myself as someone who just sees Earth as a place that we have come to visit, and I enjoy it. And I like to guide people around it through my eyes.
I love that. We just Earth and we come to visit. I absolutely love that because it's all about the mindset. It's all about how you look at it. It's relatively, right?
Yeah.
Things are happening fast and faster and faster. I mean, AI is a prime example of how things are going. But you said with Dr. West, he said, you got to know your history from where you come from. And that's what legacy is all about.
AI doesn't have that data. Mm-hmm.
That right there, right? That right
What was
there.
that, Maxine?
I said that's where legacy comes from, is knowing your history, is knowing what has taken place prior to you and while you're here. One of the things as a TED Talk that I did on October 1st, I said, live your legacy while you are here. It's not about once you're gone, then people talk about your legacy. Allow them to talk about your legacy now. And that's what you're doing. That's exactly what you are doing. So talk to me a little bit more about after Dr. West told you to know your history and you started moving and you started becoming very active in the community here in the Raleigh, North Carolina and beyond, because you don't limit yourself to one locale. I already know that. So give me a little bit more history.
Yeah, so, I look at history from multiple timelines. The History Museum has a saying, it says, every generation will see the same unique instances. It just depends on when the universe places you on the timeline. Mm-hmm. So when I look at my legacy, I look at I am someone's legacy. I look at that I have legacies. And even recently, we were talking about my pilot show on Pi TV, and they said Niecy had one of the largest viewerships. Well, I thought about my legacy when they said, how did I do it? I said, my daughter. Mm-hmm. And I love when people say, I put your name in the room. Well, I know I didn't do it by myself when I was in the room. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people have included me in rooms I wasn't ready to be in because they understood who I was based on the history. I'm a fourth generation college graduate. That means something in the Black community. That means I have seen some things. I was in DECA. I was in Jack and Jill. I applied that knowledge and started running businesses either either literally or in my mind. And when I became a banker, it was a very natural fit because I had been in a position to have an environment that was conducive to learning these things. And so I not only look at, again, the legacy, right? I look at myself as a legacy as well. And I think that has been a big part of my ability to do well because I wanted to make my ancestors proud. I wanted to make my parents proud. And I have extended that logic into how I raise my children.
Oh, that is awesome. I love the fact that you say you're fourth generation. Fourth generation. Right.
Yeah.
That's really, really awesome. I'm the first generation of a college grad. And I mean, to hear you say fourth, it's like, that's beautiful because now my children, have gone to college. And then right now, their children are too young yet to go to college, but they're slated to go to a higher education. Now, whether that's going to be college, whether that's going to be a trade, whether that's going to be military, whether that's going to be entrepreneurship, the sky is not the limit, is what we say at Levelless. It is not the limit. So we don't limit them. And it sounds like to me, you have not even limited yourself and your children. Because you say you bring your daughter's name into the room, and that's beautiful because what did I say when I started out? We work with youth. And everybody talks about they are the future. No, they are right now. It's not coming into play. It's what's happening right now. So we can't start thinking 5, 10, 15 years from now. We need to look at what's going on right now and immerse them into who they are. So talk to me a little bit about the strategy that helped you to understand who you are as an individual and your worth.
It was not always understood. I literally live a life of gratefulness. I have not experienced a lot of trauma until I decided I really wanted to do what I wanted to do. And I had to determine what that was. I had to look deep within, and I had to reach out to people like you who have literally a higher intelligence as it pertains to behavior, a higher intelligence as it pertains to empathy. And I know I had to do it because I have been in so many situations throughout my life. Being a banker for 20 years, you hear every story imaginable. That was a lot of information to process. I was learning about a lot of character and I was building competency, but I had not stopped to do it for myself. So I had a lot of information and I had accumulated literally what is called, I'm learning these terms now, a social currency bank. I have a lot of social capital. And as I started to realize history is important, storytelling is important, I need to be able to share with more people who I know, I started realizing I need to tell people who I am. And I realized I wasn't quite sure how to articulate that. And I wasn't sure who I had become. So I did what, felt right to me. I started praying, meditating. You can call it manifesting. I had done it before. I knew when I didn't have the answers that I would not allow people to be responsible for my destiny. And because I knew that they couldn't see the dreams and visions and know my own history. And when I took that time, Maxine, to really sit down and process the goodness of my life, the things that made me feel like I was valuable and worth everything of this world, I believe that's when the universe really opened up for me and my levels started to move very quickly to the point that I ended up sitting next to you at the Washington Duke Inn. I said, oh, I'm really leveling up here.
Listen, what Levelless is success without levels, right? And so it's a lateral thing. You just continue to evolve and you continue to meet the people that are supposed to be in your life. And you define what success is for you. And so that's what you had done. You had defined what it was that you were looking for. You knew your destiny. You knew where you were headed. And it sounds like to me, if I heard you correctly, that once you understood that, then the universe opened up.
Oh, yes. There was, I couldn't be trusted. I could not be trusted because what people were saying validated me. And you said it. How did you know your own worth?
Mhm.
Well, first of all, I had to be in rooms that knew what to look for. And if you are a startup business, sometimes I can speak over your head. And I had to start telling startups, I said, I can't work with you because I knew I was in a different place. And then the universe said, you simply have to do what you can do and be honest and bring them up. And so when I saw Levelist, I was like, you know what? I have a responsibility. So I was starting to become very selective. It wasn't about their competency, it was about their character, their openness and willingness to learn. And I thought a lot of people have been patient with you, Shanese. A lot of people. And so I stopped believing that I only had to be in certain rooms. And
Mhm.
I started feeling comfortable in the rooms that felt right. And I knew then, okay, this is what I was supposed to be doing because I'm missing opportunities. And I don't like that. So I started looking at character very, very closely. And
Mhm.
it led me to really working with some important clients. And not all of them were corporations and people, friends. And just my life really started to change. It really did.
You know, you said not too many of them they were in corporate, because that is so true, because you don't have to have individuals in corporate. You know, when you are being you and you being authentic and you're being genuine and you're being raw with who you are, then the universe have aligns the individuals who you're supposed to be in communication with.
Mm-hmm.
I know
And we're
I'm
more forgiving to each other too, because we know that the alignment wasn't on us,
yeah,
and there's more kindness. And I've really been on a crusade to infuse more kindness to self
yeah.
and and respect that sometimes people need a sounding board, so it may not sound kind. However, that's the human nature in them. Do you know their character?
Yes, yes.
And can you be a confidant?
And you know, character and integrity are something that we are instilling in our youth earlier in life. You know, adults, you're an adult already. And many times they're an adult's character has been damaged. Their
Mhm.
integrity have been damaged. And once that the trust has been lost, it takes years to get it back. It took you years to acquire it. But it could take one day, it could take 1 second, it could take 1 hour to lose it. But to regain it again, it's almost like you have to what? Repurpose yourself,
I
reposition
think what
yourself.
is happening is I think people need to have an AI approach to forgiveness, like my 9-year-old son. He said, Mommy, everybody gets angry. I just let it last 5 seconds. And I believe that's what has helped me in life. He's seen me just recover because I try not to remove myself over isolated incidences. I've been misunderstood so much in my lifetime that I try to allow people to show me where the fit is. And if I can't find it, I'm okay walking away. But a lot of times I don't have to. I have a strong moral compass. But I do know the pandemic really put me into thought mode, right? And um it wasn't you go talk to a therapist. No, Maxine, I wanted some friends. I wanted some strong women. I wanted women from different nationalities and from different timelines in my life to
Mhm.
help me. And so finding my way into new spaces, sometimes I know how to act, Maxine, and sometimes I don't, because they're new spaces. I'm exploring earth.
Yeah. And many times you're not the only one. We find ourselves in different spaces, right? That's new, is unfamiliar,
Yes.
territory. So one of the things that I do for myself and I help my clients to do is just take a step back. When you
Mhm.
walk into that room with confidence and start observing, you know, and then many times
Yeah.
our conversations is already taking place, right? And with those conversations taking place, You can walk up to the conversation if it's a group of individuals, and you can just stand there and observe.
And I
Walk up and
always
then
want
take
everybody to
over.
embrace me.
Not walk up and then take over.
Yeah, that's me. See, I don't know any better. I believe I walk in and I'm friends with everybody. And
Right.
so recently I have had to learn to recalibrate my excitement about my own curiosity. And I've hoped that people would be a little more open to someone who's well traveled in social currency. I'm used to people. And I'm finding, especially coming out of the pandemic and even dealing with children, not everybody is used to connecting and interacting and talking to each other. So I have really been learning and growing, and it feels right. It doesn't feel like, oh, I messed up all the time. Nope. I get up and I try it again. And as a result, even being on Zoom calls, that's new to me. I'm out of my comfort zone right now. So it wasn't just connecting with people. I had to start connecting with new ways to live. And that's how I believe I'm starting to live a levelless life, because I know that I don't know everything and I'm curious about what there is to know.
And you and me and so many others and our youth are definitely curious. And many times we do not allow them to express themselves because we as an adult want to guide them, direct them, right? Opposed to allowing them to share with us what their thoughts are. And many times it's a new idea, it's a new way of doing things. So if I were to ask you, what would you tell your 16-year-old self right now, knowing what you know?
So my 16-year-old self was a grown woman with a lot of opportunity. And I would tell my 16-year-old self, do not do anything that doesn't feel right to you because somebody else believes it's best for you. I knew I was a great dancer in high school, and I knew I should have gone to an art school. However, I would also tell my 16-year-old self to be very comfortable and accept the will of the universe. I used to say I was in prison in that bank.
Say
No,
that
I wasn't.
again. Let's just pause there for a minute. Say that again, because ladies and gentlemen, I want you all to write that down. This is a platinum nugget moment.
We have to accept that some things the universe allows for us to go through to happen for us. And that's okay. I did not go to art school. I went to A&T. I was a golden delight. I met wonderful people. And then I became a banker. I used my English degree as more of a comprehension aspect into the finance world. Do you understand how to write a credit memo? Yes, Shanese can do that. you know, and as a result, I gained a wealth of knowledge that I would never have acquired at an art school. And so now, as a mature woman, I'm able to help creatives on a larger platform rather than just serving myself out there dancing on tour. I'm taking myself on tour dancing. I can just do whatever I want. I didn't have to deny the opportunity. I just had to accept it.
I love it. I love it. One of the quotes that was given to me at the time I started the business, and I didn't understand, I believe in a higher power other than myself. So it came to me and it said, we are a masterpiece, uniquely designed for a purpose, but given natural abilities to reach our destiny. And that's what you just described. You just described that dance is an ability, but that dance is a catalyst that's going to help you reach that destiny that you were purposed for when you were given the breath of life.
Can I tell you a real quick story?
You sure can.
About 3 years ago, I told everybody at the bank, I said, I'm a dance in the African American Culture Festival. Just told them. That was a dream, a goal. I have wanted to do it for years. And I called one of those young ladies this past year and I said, I'm a dancing African American culture festival girl. And then I found out that Dr. West started that festival. And to be able to share my gift and be a part of a historical moment, this 2023 year, those are the kinds of things that I stop and I thank the universe for. I'm appreciative. I didn't get upset that I didn't do it the first year I said I was going to do it. I kept dancing. And then when I got the phone call that we had been asked to dance, my dance company, the Reels Dance Group, I was so happy. And I was like, now I just danced in the 50th anniversary of hip hop. But the African American Culture Festival was actually a dream of mine. And so I've also started to realize I can't have everything the minute I think of it. And I can't accept that I have to accept rather that I'm a part of the have, and I need to help get to more people with ideas, because that's what Dr. West did for me. He had an idea and he created this festival. It was a reality and I had a dream. And when all of it came together, I was so proud. And so acceptance of even the timeline of your life is important.
Yes. And, it's not about our timing. It's the timing of the universe for us. And as you indicated, you said you were going to dance. You just didn't say when. 1 year, 2 years, could have been 5 years, but you danced. And that's what we have to start realizing. And that's one of the things, is the reason why I talk about strategy so much, is because that was a strategy for you.
Yes. And it was motivating too, Maxine. I had something to look forward to. Now, a lot of people don't know this, but I was bitten by a spider this summer, and the infection almost made me septic. And I went to the hospital, and I just remember the doctor popping his gloves off, and he said, we're going to have to numb you up and drain this infection. I said, how long is this going to take to heal? I have to dance in the 50th anniversary of hip hop. And he looked at me like, I don't know who this lady is, but I'm not messing up the 50th anniversary of hip hop. And I thought, I want to live. I don't just want to dance. Yeah. I am here to live, because my life could have been taken from me over a spider bite. And I started being very, very appreciative of the wonderful things in my life, and especially my legacy, my children. So I started kind of aligning what I was doing with what the kids were doing. And sure enough, I said, Nia, will you come on my first podcast on Pod TV? Because I wanted the record to show that I cared about my legacy, Maxine. So when you talk about it, I'm like, I heard that growing up. I'm a legacy and so many different rights. And now I have the chance to be the have for the ideas of my legacy. So my daughter, she works on marketing with me, and I said, well, in my company, your book is a project management firm. I said, Nia, would you like to be a manager when it comes to the adults? Because I've seen her leadership skills. See, she's a Chick-fil-A leader. She wins contests at school. She's been in the Reflections program. She's been featured at the museum. So she has her own creative resume. Right. And I said, well, now we need to work on leadership and entrepreneurship. And she was really interested. That's bigger than you were on my first podcast.
Uh-oh. Just bear with us. We're having a little unstable internet right now. You there? Bear with us. We're having some unstable internet.
I cannot hear you, so I'm going to hold tight and see if our connection. We may be messing up the crystals in this energy.
Yeah, no, that's right. It's all about energy. I was just saying, hold tight. We have an unstable connection. So you never know what the internet is going to do. We have to go with the flow. All right.
Yes.
So yeah, so you're talking about your daughter and her openness for the leadership that you were talking to her about as she started leading.
Very, very open.
Mm-hmm. But that's good. And that's what, that's what we're hoping more and more and more of our youth would do, because they have the leader within themselves. And we just need to allow them that opportunity to do it. We were
Yes.
talking about having that confidence in yourself. And so talking to me a little bit about how you, and I heard you talk about dancing. I hear you talk about when you walk into the room, but give us some strategies on what you use for yourself in order for you to build or enhance the confidence within you, the person.
Maxine, I don't think I've ever been asked the question, but I know the answer. The first is love. I believe love is important. I believe that I have to understand myself to love myself so I can be authentic to myself first. And the way in which I present myself, I'm hoping that people see the love that I have for what God has done for me.
Right.
When that kind of with that kind of confidence, people talk to me about it. They say, I see you, I just see such confidence. I was a bigger woman at one point in my life, and people would tell me, it didn't matter what size you were, Shanese, you still carry yourself well. And I was thinking, yeah, I don't think I really had any problems with my weight. you know, the things that mattered to me was, what was I doing? What was I doing that was fulfilling a commitment to serve a greater good?
Right.
And I'm confident I like to hang out with seniors. I'm very confident I like to do that. So there's a phrase that I say, do more of what makes you happy.
Yes.
When I'm doing something that makes me happy, I'm able to practice confidence. So when I have to do something that I'm not sure of, I'm understanding, once I get it, there's a very good possibility I will be happy doing it. And then I consistently and able to create confidence within even areas that are new to me, because I'm here to learn. I'm here to help other people. And the one time in my life, I went through about 6 years, Maxine, after my happily even after husband and I decided that co-parenting would be a better solution for raising the children. And I have to say it like that because people need to hear the whole story. That's the
Right.
whole story. He is my happily even after. The man isn't going anywhere. So I was disappointed in myself because I had been raised to be a wife and a mother. And not only was I losing my marriage, I was losing the credibility that I could do what I had been raised to.
Mm-hmm.
And when I changed the belief system to understand that the children were first, the decision that I made was best for them. I made a good decision in marrying their dad. They're wonderful kids. I also made a good decision to ensure that the way in which we raised them was healthy. And so when I stopped beating myself up about that, my confidence in my critical thinking and decision making skills
Come on.
returned. And I was like, now I can go have fun again because I stopped beating myself up, because I stopped feeling like I didn't love myself, because I wasn't doing what a generation or two or three before me felt was the measurement of a
Right.
good woman. I'm a good mother too. And there was no right or wrong, no good or evil. There was, let's do this with the children in mind and not worry about what other people say.
Right.
And so when you look at that on a broad scale, and that's how I'm living my life. But what happened was I was so worried about everybody else because I was making the money and bringing it back to the kids. The real thing that hurt me, and I'm going to sum this up, was I had stopped parenting the children as a mother because I didn't feel worthy. So
Ladies.
I had to go get back, find my self-worth, find my love for myself, had to apologize to the kids. I was like, look, I know I took 6 years off. I'm back. And that was something that as a mother, that was hard because now we're talking about trust. Like you said in the beginning, And I have honestly and truly, you'll hear on my first podcast when I'm talking to my daughter, that's why I had a good viewership, because we talked about the things. How does she handle going from 1 week at dad and 1 week at my house? How does she feel about not being with me all the time? She said, well, I need a break from you.
So she
And
told the
that's
truth.
what worked
Yeah.
for us. And
Yeah.
when I stopped worrying about what everybody else was thinking and started focusing back on what I knew was best for the way in which our lives were positioned, that's when I started getting confident again. Because I'm telling you, Maxine, you couldn't have been around me about three years ago. You would have said, no, no, no. Mm-mm. You need to hire me.
Well, you know what I'm hearing is that self-awareness. That
Mm-hmm.
self-awareness kicked in. You
It is.
start loving yourself. You start recognizing what you needed to do differently. You start recognizing what was not working. And ladies and
Mm-hmm.
gentlemen, that's all a part of life. That's all a part of evolving. That's all a part of growing up. And that's maturity, is recognizing what's working, what's not working, and what do we need to do differently.
Mm-hmm. But
That's where that
Maxine,
you told me. That's what I was hearing.
yes. So maybe you can help people who ask me. This has been one of the magic questions, 48 years being raised for the fairy tale. And I think that even after um in the past 2 or 3 years or so, to really dispel those beliefs and say, I can look at things differently.
Mhm.
How have you been able to do that in your life?
One of the things that helped me was the fact that there's an assessment that's called the ability assessment. And many individuals do not know their true core, who they are from their core. And that's what we all need to understand. Who are we? Many times,
Mm-hmm.
like what you just said, is dictated by what someone else who says we are, and we start believing that,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
opposed to knowing it for ourselves. So when I have individuals who go through that, and when I went through that, it validated all of the things that I assumed about myself, but wasn't for sure. So it
Mm-hmm.
confirmed them. And then it also brought out the blind side of the things I did not know about myself that I needed to be aware of. How was
Yes.
people receiving me versus how I thought they were actually receiving me? How do I make
Yes.
decisions? How do I problem solve? Do I like working in a group or do I like being by myself? I am the subject matter expert. I want to be that expert because I'm going to study and I'm going to understand that subject. So when you come to me, my answers is that of an expert. But not everybody can accept you giving them an answer from an expert point of view. But those are the
Yeah.
lenses in which I look through. And so once I
Mm-hmm.
start understanding that about myself, then that's where my confidence level started enhancing even more. And I could walk upright and I could feel good about what I'm doing because I love what I do and I'm doing what I love. And society is not dictating it to me. And that's where levelers was introduced. I've always done this as a little girl. I just did not know what it was called.
Mm-hmm. That's why I said 16-year-old Shanese was living her best life. And I have to go back to, like you said, my own history and be self-aware. And
Mhm.
sometimes I tap into the strength of my own experiences, Maxine. When I think about my girlfriends from high school, they said, Shanice, you always had a job. They said, we would say, girl, something is happening. You said, okay, I'm gonna come there, but I have madrigals before school, and then I have the African American Culture Club after school. So come by my house when I get off work about 8. know, I was not just busy. I was doing things with purpose and substance too, because a lot of times I found myself going with the stream, or we're just going to do this. And I had no purpose or passion. It was what everybody else was doing. And then I started to realize, oh, I don't want to be judged because I'm going to do something different. But Maxine, I was hired with my project management firm Yearbook to manage the volunteers for the Raleigh Film and Art Festival, and they had a panel. And someone from the Raleigh Arts Council was moderating it. And I went up and I did my little thing about how important it is to help artists with their entrepreneurship. And as I was walking away, he said, Nisi, I wandered into one of your experiences at the City of Raleigh Museum with People First Tourism. I said, oh, someone saw me. And he said, it was different. And that's what we need. We innovate for humanity, but when are we going to start innovating for, I mean, we innovate for technology, but Maxine, when are we going to start innovating for humanity?
Yeah. Keep the
And
human.
that includes leisure. That plays a part of life too.
Yes. And and it's so important what you just brought out. Technology is here and it's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. But we also always must keep the human side into it. We must always make sure that that's a part, that belonging, and help individuals to understand, do you really need to be accepted by everyone? Do you really need to be liked by everyone? Do you need to be able to fit into every situation you walk into? Everything is not for us. We need to have this discernment on what is the right environment, what is the right group, what is the right association, even to the point at even what organization should I be working. If I'm going to be work for an organization, what should that environment look like?
I went through that a lot in the bank. I told you I would leave. I would. I worked for one bank 9 days. I just knew my value in that space. And I started transferring my skill set, again, my knowledge of who I am. And I said, why would I not continue to educate people on what I know? And so I created something called Work of Art so that I could get back into the workplaces and talk about education. And I realized, again, I have found a safe space.
Yes.
This is that no one's going to say, Nisi, don't come in here with some artists and talk about financial literacy or insurance. Everyone is very eager to learn about how they can brighten their workplace.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of workplaces that don't know they need that. And
Yeah.
so there is some helping some workplaces to recognize all that you're offering your employees online, sign in, click this. We need to get back to some human connection.
Yes, so agree, so agree. And that's one of the reasons why, even on my end, you talk about stories. I never will forget this time that here I am, a manager, doing phenomenal, have 4 employees reporting to me. We're the ones that are the face of the company, bringing in, helping the marketing department make sure that the annual revenue was $12 million a year to meet that annual revenue budget. And here I am, the front of the organization and making sure it happened with my team. And then I'm called into my performance review, told I'm outstanding. But the next words out of her mouth were, but you will never be promoted without a degree. Now, I didn't know how to take that at the time. And after I left that review, of course, I was deflated. But the more I thought about it, I thought, wait a minute. See, that's why that success without levels is important, because I was successful.
Yes.
My team ended up making sure that the marketing department reached that $12 million, because if we hadn't done our job, we were the face of the organization. If we had not done our job, guess what? That organization would not have brought in that type of money.
That's right.
It would have been leaving the organization and not be wanting to work within the organization or do business with the organization.
That's right. So what time frame was this when this happened, Maxine?
It was in the 80s,
Mm-hmm.
80s and
I
90s.
know we're trying to look at that differently now, but it still does happen. And they work experience, and this is what I do like about the millennials and Gen Zs. They have a lot of work experience. They will leave a job too. And I was a hiring manager. And so I can remember having conversations with people who had more of that 80s corporate mindset and saying, well, we do a couple of different things. There was a book called Love 'Em or Lose 'Em, and it talked about generational um, work spaces and how don't sleep on someone who has a lot of work experience thinking that they can't keep a job. They're acquiring quite a bit of knowledge that a textbook can't teach you.
That's right. And that's
Can't teach
exactly
you.
what was happening in that position. A textbook could not have taught me the customer
No,
service imperatives that I put in place with my, clerical team and with my, what they call it, the representatives. There's no way. That was from within. I was born with it and
that's
still
right.
use it. And so I had to take a step back and say, wait a minute, society does not dictate to me if I'm successful. I am successful.
Yeah. Well, I was failing at something in society. This little piece of hair is driving me crazy. And it's a good example of what I mean by I just told the young lady, I said, I'm ready to take my rightful place in society and I want to work on being a lady. And when I met you, you said you did etiquette classes. And I was like, but I need some different kind of etiquette classes than tea parties and forks and spoons.
And
I need to
then,
understand things like social media etiquette. I
exactly.
don't understand text etiquette. My daughter can look at an emoji, and they had a little emoji movie coming out. She can look at an emoji and tell a whole story. My baby said one, he had the, she said,
Why is
Mommy,
it?
Sean never cries.
Yeah.
I said, he's hurt. And
Yeah.
sure enough, so
Yeah.
staying in a curious mode, learning about myself, I decided that I had been in a male dominated position in my life for too long, being the oldest of the grandchildren, being in a male dominated professional career. I would find things to balance, like dancing. I was a cheerleading coach at Chavis for 10 years. But now I need to just decide. And when I looked at all of the aspects of who I am, I thought to myself, being a college graduate, that's not really going to get me a job, because what did I really learn there? How I present myself best is when I am a lady. And I won't do it all the time because, this is new. But I'm so thankful that there are etiquettes that ladies have. And I'd love to work with you in bringing more of that into the community, because I think that that will help us if we have some common sensibilities.
Yeah, you're right. It's always room for improvement. I always say that, even about myself. I mean, I go to different workshops or different seminars, different conferences in order to learn how to better myself. And it's only going to help us. And and what you just called it. You called the elephant in the room on what you need. And that's what more of us need to do. We need to be able to name it and call it, identify it, and then seek out the resource that's going to help us overcome it.
Yes.
And many
And I
times
think that's what's
don't do
new
that.
in etiquette. We need to ask the children to tell us what etiquettes they have already adopted in some of this technology. Because
Correct.
I think that a lot of times we're missing information, sending emails, everything's LinkedIn. I think that the phone call should come back. Maxine, I was on a whole conference call this morning. There was no Zoom, and I felt comfortable from a generational standpoint. People don't realize that sometimes you're not getting the best out of the Gen X people because you've taken us completely out of our element and we're just not comfortable. And so I like to do things in different ways. I like that before our show, you talked to me on the phone.
Yeah.
You didn't just send me an email and say, click the buttons. I was so impressed with the way you prepared for this. And I thought to myself, a lot of times we're just not prepared either. We think that technology has given us a route to do it with excellence, but we've forgotten that we need the preparation.
Yes.
And I appreciate seeing, you know, the opportunity to connect with you so that I would feel comfortable, because a lot of people don't know this. I'm terrified of social media. I already know a lot of people. I can wake up in the morning and be viral. It's possible. I just do things like that because I asked God, but I didn't ask him about being viral. I asked him for peace of mind and being virtual. It's small.
Yeah.
And you helped me to get very comfortable to come on this show. That took preparation and planning. And I'd like to thank you for them.
Well, thank you very much for that acknowledgement. I'm a people person, and this is a part of the customer service imperatives that a part of the workshop that I do, because it's so important that I always say, use the different learning styles. What is that person's preference? And many times we get away from it, but we need to embrace your preference. I'm a visual person, so I prefer to see your big, beautiful smile. Now, I can also talk on the telephone because I'm an extrovert and I'm going to paint a picture for you. So but you have to understand that about the person which you're communicating with. And that's one of the, the communication workshops that I do. And it helps you to only better yourself when you're communicating with various, not only age groups, not only the millennials or the baby boomers or the Gen X, but you have to understand how to communicate with each of those individuals. And even though there are 4 people in the same generation, guess what? They still have a preferred way of communicating. So you just do an assumption and put everybody in that square and think they fit. That is not the case. So
you can assess quickly. You're like me. I can. A mortgage officer told me one time. He said, "Niece, you've been doing this long enough. You know if somebody has it or not." Well, then I just declined the loan or help them figure out another way to get it. You had to keep working with these people after you make your assessment, and it is impressive. And you were spot on with me. I was like, I like to tell people what to do. You said, so you're a verbal.
Well, I mean, but you have to help people to understand what's their preference. And even with leaders, you have these entire team of individuals. And if you do not understand their preferred way of communicating, you're going to be missing a major opportunity. And you're not going to be able to be using their potential to the fullest. Because there's a misalignment going on. And you also need to know, are they in the right role and responsibilities when it comes to their competencies?
Yes. And that was always, I remember when I first started in banking, they just gave me a job. They saw, I was on a call this morning. They said, have a charismatic company. Don't just be charismatic. I was just charismatic. That's all. I did not know how to manage people. And when it became obvious, the district leader came in and he was so honest with me. He said, Nisi, we either, in people in your position, we either coach you up or coach you out.
Right.
If you cannot do it, we cannot allow you to keep not doing it well. And at that point, self-reflection, I had to become self-aware. Why am I not doing this job well? Who do I talk to that is doing it well? Looking at my learning style, I remember becoming a part of the merger teams, and they couldn't fire me then because no one could communicate what was being given to the new bank and then shared to the employees so that the merger, I was like, oh, so I wanted to be a trainer, but I couldn't be trusted with that responsibility. I was too all over the place. I was a young woman. I was still, trying to figure things out. You couldn't trust me with the minds of new people coming into the role, but I got to practice it. And over time, I realized managing people collectively all the time was really a good fit for me. And I ended up going back through the training school again. And I felt like my company really cared for me until they didn't. And then I went to work for a new company. That's all.
And what you did was you repurposed your skills.
Yes.
You didn't lose them. You just repurpose the skills. And some individuals are so stuck with a particular organization that they have not yet thought ahead to say, hey, I can repurpose what I've learned here. I was so versatile in one particular company that I worked with that they ended up, when they have layoffs, you never know who's going to be the one that's going to be laid off. But I ended up losing my manager, and I was it for the department. But so guess what? that I did not know, I had to learn. I went to different conferences and associations and schools and training in order to learn. So only thing it did was it opened me up to become more level-less.
Yes. And you know what? Talking about that social currency and being the only one in the department, that's one of the things my project management firm prides itself on, is helping people build strong teams. If I already know so many people, then maybe we can barter some services, or
Right.
maybe we can bring in an expert and look at how the budget can compensate the person that you need in order to get to your next level.
Yeah.
We have too many organizations and individuals from a corporate and business standpoint that are working without a team. But then I recognize something: our individuals in our communities, our families, they need teams too. If you go and apply for something, a resource, and you can't get it, what are we supposed to do? We're
Yeah.
supposed to still help you figure out other ways. And the one thing that I've noticed, I've recently changed my thinking about financial literacy. This was a huge shift. I said some people are never going to learn how to balance their statements. So, what is the solution? They need a team.
Mhm.
Corporations have bookkeepers, rich people have CPAs and things of that nature. Why
Yes.
haven't we created an opportunity in the poor communities where people who do know how to balance statements? My happily even after husband was a mechanic, but he would get angry if he couldn't find 1 cent. I can't balance this statement. But why can't we have him help some young mothers? He only gonna do is look at the numbers and tell you what they are. And then we need a team that can help that mother plan, almost as if she has a budget. Oh, wait, yes, that's what it is, a budget. But if you never knew how to do it, then you'll need someone to help you. And then you can learn how to save. And we can put an entire life plan in place. You are doing the part that I don't do, which is creating that holistic mindset, self-worth aspect. And then you have a lot of workshops that really complement what I just rolled out. And again, it has to be alignment, because it's time to start helping people, not just on a mass scale, but helping them in totality in terms of what they need.
You've said it best, because with what they need, and especially we start with the parents and the mothers or the single parents, they take it back to their children and they're teaching their children. And that's where we get that transforming generations and leaving legacies at.
Ooh, I
Because
had to do a little wiggle on that.
I know it is like, woo, 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 woo.
Because see, you
Definitely.
come in with your part. I didn't have to think of it all. I mean, Maxine, you and I mean, you want to solve something else while we're on here?
What's that? Well, ladies and gentlemen, all we can say is get ready, get ready, get ready.
I'm really excited about citizen awareness,
Mhm.
helping our citizens to understand what's available to them, what roles can they play, putting the have with the ideas and bringing things to reality.
We will do it. We will get it on the calendar. And so for 2024, we're going to roll it out. So we'll be working on it these next 6 weeks. And in 2024, let's roll it out.
I love this for everyone, Maxine, and I thank God for the opportunity to be with you today, be with your guests, your fans. I appreciate you, the woman that you represent in our community. Thank you for taking the time with me. Again, thank you for your acknowledgments at the top of the show. I have already fallen in love with you with the love of the universe. I really do appreciate our time.
Oh, thank you so much for being here.
Good night, everyone.
And ladies and gentlemen, that does it for our evening. As you heard, what a phenomenal conversation that I have just had with Shanese and Nisi. I mean, she is a powerhouse. She's a community advocate. I mean, we're going to be rolling some phenomenal things out in 2024. So just get ready, get ready, get ready. But as I close the show, I always say, I believe in you and I trust you believe in yourself. So meet me back here next week, same place, same station. But in the meantime, have yourself a happy holiday. Happy Thanksgiving to you.